There are 10,000 species of birds on this planet. Humans eat 4 of them: chicken, turkey, duck, and quail if you're paying restaurant prices to feel fancy. That's it. 10,000 options. We picked 4, and we never looked back. Meanwhile, a robin hops across your backyard every single morning, completely unbothered. A crow sits on a power line, watching you drive to work like it owns the road. A pigeon walks straight up to your feet in the park, practically daring you to try something. And you don't. Somewhere in that bird's tiny brain, it knows something. It knows you're not a threat, not anymore. Think about that for a second. A creature that would explode into flight if a hawk so much as looked at it, casually strolls past the most dangerous predator to ever exist on Earth: you. When has that ever happened with any other animal? So what happened? Why did we go all in on a handful of birds and just quit on the other 99.9%? Here's the twist. It's not one reason, it's 5, stacked on top of each other. And once you see all 5, you'll never look at a pigeon the same way again. Reason 1. Some birds are literally poisonous. Not venomous, poisonous. In the 1990s, scientists in Papua New Guinea picked up a small orange and black songbird for research. Within minutes, their fingers went numb. They tested it. The bird's skin and feathers were coated in a toxin nearly identical to what's found on poison dart frogs. The bird eats a specific beetle. The toxin builds up in its body. Its entire body becomes a walking chemical weapon. One bite and your mouth goes numb for hours. And it's not alone. European quail can turn toxic too, depending on what they eat during migration. There's literally a medical condition named after it: coturnism. Ancient Roman doctors wrote about people getting violently, dangerously sick after eating the wrong batch of quail. So even the birds we've decided are safe come with an asterisk. Reason 2, the scavenger problem. Crows, vultures, gulls, magpies, whatever's rotting on the ground. Their diet is a rotating buffet of decay, and you are what you eat, literally. Meat from scavenger birds carries more bacteria, more parasites, and a taste the few brave souls who've tried it describe as somewhere between liver and old fish. Vultures specifically have stomach acids strong enough to dissolve anthrax and botulism. Incredible for the vulture. Absolutely not something you want concentrated into a meal. Now compare that to chickens. Chickens eat grain. Turkeys eat grain. Ducks eat grain and small aquatic plants. Clean diet, clean meat. It's not an accident that every bird we eat regularly happens to be a picky, grain-fed herbivore. We didn't just pick these birds at random. Their own diet pre-selected them for us. The bird most people forget. There's actually a 5th bird on the eaten list that most people don't even realize counts: pigeons, specifically squab, a fancy word for a pigeon that hasn't learned to fly yet. Ancient Egyptians were raising pigeons for food over 5,000 years ago. Pigeon towers, basically apartment buildings built for birds, still stand in Iran and Egypt today. Medieval Europe was covered in dovecotes for the exact same reason. Squab never disappeared. It just quietly slid from an everyday meal into a delicacy, which means the bird cooing outside your window right now is technically the same species your ancestors were farming for dinner. Reason 3. Some birds are just bad at being wild. The modern chicken descends almost entirely from the red jungle fowl of Southeast Asia, tamed roughly 8,000 years ago. Jungle fowl are low-flying, ground-dwelling, and not exactly geniuses when it comes to spotting danger. That made them easy to corner, easy to pen, easy to breed by the thousands. Turkeys followed the same path in the Americas, domesticated by indigenous peoples in Mexico long before Europeans showed up. Ducks got folded in through China, with domestication stretching back thousands of years there too. In other words, the birds we eat today aren't just the ones that happen to taste good. They're the ones dumb enough or docile enough to let us catch them in the first place. Evolution rewards caution. Domestication punishes it. Reason 4. Some birds are untouchable, and not for practical reasons. Eagles, hawks, owls, almost never eaten anywhere on Earth, even in cultures that will eat nearly anything else. Part of that is practical. These birds are lean, muscular, built purely for flight. Barely any fat, mostly tough, stringy muscle. Not exactly a great meal. But the bigger reason is symbolic. Eagles represent freedom and power in dozens of cultures. Owls are tied to wisdom, death, and the supernatural, depending on where you're standing on the planet. Killing one carries a weight that chicken will never have. Owls get even stranger the further you travel. In parts of India and West Africa, owls are still linked to witchcraft and bad omens, to the point where killing one is considered dangerous, not just impractical. In ancient Greece, it was the exact opposite. Owls were sacred to Athena, goddess of wisdom. Harming one was considered an insult to the gods themselves. Cultures with zero contact with each other, separated by oceans and centuries. And somehow, the same bird keeps landing on the same do not touch list. That's not a coincidence. That's something ancient wired into us. And that symbolism isn't just superstition anymore. It has legal teeth. In the United States, it is a federal crime to kill, possess, or eat a bald eagle. The Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act comes with massive fines and prison time attached. Most songbirds fall under something called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, a law from 1918 that makes it illegal to hunt, capture, or kill hundreds of species. So even if a robin looked delicious to you, one bite would make you a federal criminal over a few grams of meat off a bird the size of your fist. Reason 5. The math just doesn't work. A chicken gives you a full meal. A songbird gives you maybe 2 bites, if that. Historically, the energy it takes to hunt, pluck, and cook a sparrow massively outweighs the tiny bit of food you get back. Early humans figured this out fast. Why chase 20 finches through a forest when you can raise 1 chicken in a pen and eat off it for a year? But here's the twist you didn't see coming. Humans didn't always avoid small birds. There's a dark chapter buried in food history, and it centers on a tiny French delicacy called the ortolan bunting. For centuries, French diners trapped these small songbirds, force-fed them grain in total darkness until their bodies doubled in size, drowned them in Armagnac brandy, roasted them whole. Tradition said you eat the entire bird, bones and all, while covering your head and face with a napkin, supposedly to hide the act from God himself. It sounds invented. It's not. It was one of the most prestigious dishes in French cuisine, eaten by presidents, eaten by celebrities, until the species collapsed so badly from overhunting that France banned it outright in the 1970s. It's still illegal today, and it still hasn't fully stopped underground demand. France wasn't alone in that appetite either. Victorian England had its own obsession, lark pie, an entire pastry stuffed with dozens of whole skylarks, baked beaks and all, served as a status symbol at wealthy dinner tables. Italy still has regional pockets where small songbirds are hunted and eaten. Technically illegal under EU law, still happening anyway. The pattern repeats every single time. Whenever humans hunted small wild birds at scale, the birds simply couldn't reproduce fast enough to survive it. The practice either got banned or it burned itself out completely. So the appetite for eating small wild birds was always there. It just ran straight into extinction, and extinction won. Which brings us back to where we started. Next time a crow watches you eat lunch from a park bench, next time a robin hops 3 feet away without a hint of fear in its tiny black eyes, remember, that's not luck. That's the end result of thousands of years of humans, one bird at a time, quietly deciding which ones were worth the trouble and which ones simply got to walk.